This monster was quite amusing. One moment, he wanted to destroy an entire town, but the next moment, he agreed to adopt a child from a mother. The kind monster picked up the baby from the ground, and took him back to his lair. Other monsters wanted to eat the baby, but with just one look from the Monster King, they were scared away. Jack was a monster, and he didn't know how to take care of a child. He looked at the crying baby, and decided to share some of his power with him. This would help the baby regain his strength, but it was only temporary. After a little while, the baby woke up and began crying again. Jack then threw the baby into a nest full of insects. He didn't want the insects to eat the baby. These insects didn't eat humans, they only cleaned up the waste. A few minutes later, the baby was cleaned by them, but the baby cried again. Jack thought that human babies would grow naturally after sleeping for a while, but it wasn't like that at all. In order to raise the baby, he came up with a very special method. Jack gave his own blood to a deceased female ninja, and then he resurrected Mary. Jack threw away Mary's weapon, but now the blood in her body came from Jack, so she was like a zombie. Mary would completely obey Jack's commands. Jack resurrected Mary so she could nurse the baby. Mary was speechless, but Jack controlled her. Mary was forced to take off her clothes to nurse the baby, but she couldn't produce any milk. Mary had never even been in a relationship, and now she felt insulted. She wanted to die immediately, but she couldn't die, because the blood in her body was all Jack's. Mary had no choice but to obey Jack's orders. Living in such a humiliating way, Mary asked Jack to find a wet nurse, so the baby could be fed. Jack didn't have money for exchanges, but magical ores could be used to hire a wet nurse. However, there was one problem. The wet nurse would surely be frightened when seeing Jack like this, so Jack thought of a way. He transformed into a human form, but what Mary didn't expect was that Jack turned into the form of a little boy. They packed up and went to the town. First, they went to the stream to bathe the baby. Mary had no choice but to follow Jack's instructions. While Mary was washing the baby, she noticed that the cloth wrapping the baby bore the royal seal.